And we are live. Hey, everybody. Welcome to All Walks of Film. I'm Ren, and I have Zaius on the line with me. We're going to be talking about Star Wars Episode 9. Trailer just came out a couple days ago for Star Wars Celebration in Chicago. I used to live in Chicago. I don't anymore. I would have gone if I still lived in Chicago, but that was pretty expensive plane ticket, so I decided not to. Instead, I just watched the live stream on YouTube. I watched a little bit of the panel before. It was a lot of self-congratulatory stuff, which, given how the franchise is right now, not really confident in where it's going. What do you think, Zaius?
Oh, well, I haven't been confident in this franchise since like 2012 when they first started talking about Disney taking it over. I like even before that, like if I can say that I enjoy the prequels because I saw them when I was a kid. I was like 9 when I saw episode 1. So I have to say I love that movie, even though I see the faults with it now.
Uh,
But like looking back at it now, the franchise has been kind of on a downward spiral since 1983. So, and now for me after The Last Jedi, it's completely dead. To me at least.
yeah, I originally kind of liked The Last Jedi. The first viewing, I was like, this is okay. It's a terrible Star Wars movie, but I think it's an okay movie. The
Yeah.
more I've thought about it, the more and more I'm like, look, Rian Johnson, I loved Brick. I loved Looper. I loved what you did on Breaking Bad, but I'm sorry, get the hell away from Star Wars.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Like, yeah, you can I can't say that like The Last Jedi is a terrible movie on a technical level.
Mhm.
There are certain aspects of it that are great. There are certain aspects of it that are pretty bad too. Like I think the script has a lot of like problems. But I mean the effects are good, but they're always good nowadays. And like the score is okay. It's not my favorite Star Wars score. But yeah, as a Star Wars movie, it's terrible. It's a terrible Star Wars movie. It's a terrible movie to have in a trilogy because it doesn't build on what happened before, and it's not building towards what's going to happen after. It's the worst kind of movie to have in a trilogy. So I don't understand what they were thinking with that movie.
Yeah, I was really shocked the first time I watched it. It was so contrary to my expectations, and like that seems to be the total point that Rian Johnson wanted to make. He wanted to make
Yeah.
a movie that defied all expectations, and you know, on that he succeeded, but it also created a lot of logical inconsistencies within the entire franchise and made you question some of the most pivotal moments in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like the original Death Star run. Like, why couldn't they just light speed into the Death Star? Like, one of the droids light speed into a Death Star, you wouldn't have to do all that. Like, it just creates all these problems that, like, it you start thinking back on it and it's like, well, why didn't they do this? Well, why didn't they do that? And it makes Star Wars seem dumb.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like he doesn't like he doesn't like Star Wars. He wanted to change Star Wars, and that's not something you can do in a franchise that's been going on for like 40 years, and that everyone kind of agrees on that it's good, even if the prequels were kind of crappy. Um, like you can't just go in there and I'm going to make my own version of Star Wars. It doesn't work, especially not when it's part of a trilogy.
Yeah, and some information has come out that essentially says that Kathleen Kennedy had no plan for what was going to happen, and it certainly shows. I mean, after The Last Jedi, I looked at the film and I was like, where do you go from here?
Yeah, yeah, because all they're doing is it's like the entire movie is just treading water. They start out exactly where they or they they end where they start out. There's no like change basically.
Well, yeah, and the main character, Rey, has no character arc in the two films that we've seen.
No.
And that's bad.
Yeah. Yeah, and the worst part is that there was the one moment that actually made me think like, oh, this could be interesting is when after they have fought all the red guards or whatever they're called,
I
there's
think
this
they were
moment.
called Praetorian Guards or something.
Oh
like
yeah,
that.
right. When there's this moment that they might actually team up. Now that could have been an interesting change of direction for Star Wars. But then they just go back to no, he's the bad guy and she's the good guy. So nothing changes. That was so disappointing because the movie was almost looking good at that point. I was like, the movie's been terrible. Do something good now. Oh no, nope, nothing.
And unlike a lot of people, I actually didn't like Snoke. I'm a huge fan of Andy Serkis, but that was a bullshit role to begin with. And I know a lot of people were like, oh, well, who's Snoke and all this kind of stuff. And I was just like, I'm kind of bored of it. He's just Emperor Palpatine 2.0. And we'll get into that a little bit later. Yeah. But yeah, I wasn't impressed with his character. And when he got killed off, I was actually happy. But then the more and more I thought about it, I was like, well, what was the point of his character to begin with?
Yeah, the way they end him, there was no point to his character. He was a non-character. He was just the main, not even the main bad guy. He was this avatar of oh look, evil, but they don't do anything with him.
Right, and also the New Order doesn't really make sense. If the Empire was destroyed, how did the New Order build up? And I know that they've been talking that The Mandalorian, the TV show that's going to be on Disney Plus, is going to explain that. But you have 3 movies. You can explain it in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, you could do a montage. I mean, there's several different ways that you could explain how the New Order rose to power, and the films just don't seem interested in doing that. And they don't seem interested in, you know, creating compelling character arcs. They're killing off beloved characters. They're killing off characters that were introduced that we're interested in. Like another great character that was killed off that a lot of people were mad at was Captain Phasma. I actually thought she was an interesting character. I wanted to see where she was going, and they killed her off.
Yeah, and they were building her up so much. Like she's on the poster for both Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, and she has like a combined screen time of what, 10 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, and
it was also super weird. I think that was just to sell toys. I think, honestly.
I mean, and like. Let's face it, we know that Star Wars is all about selling toys.
Yes.
But I do think it's interesting that the last 2 films are still having toys in the bargain bin. I don't know if you've seen toys in the bargain bin in Sweden, but boy, in the United States, I see all these Rose Tico toys, all these Snoke toys, like all these Luke Skywalker toys. They're all in the bargain bin of Walmart.
Yeah, no, I don't really go into toy stores that much nowadays. But I've seen a bunch. I mean, there's entire channels on YouTube that just go around filming toy stores and showing like how many Star Wars characters are on sale. No one's buying them. Just rows and rows of toys that nobody wants. And that's also part because, you know, like who wants to buy this Snoke toy? There's no character behind him. Oh, he's the guy with the gold robe, or what? What is he? Who is he? Why would I want to buy that toy? Even as a kid, you know?
Yeah, and like I think a lot of the characters in the new trilogy, some of the designs I think look cool, but other than that, like they haven't really built up the characters. Like I think that Rey has a cool costume. I like the jacket that Finn has.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I can't give much to their character because over the past 2 films, they haven't really gone many places. Like the only character with somewhat of an arc is Kylo Ren.
Yeah, he's the most interesting character, and even he is pretty flawed as a character. I mean, flawed as a written flawed, not a character with flaws is a good character, but they've written him badly, basically. pretty not like terribly, but there are problems with it.
Yeah. And one of the things that I got really frustrated with The Last Jedi was the whole thing of force projection. Like, if Jedis are able to communicate, Jedi and Sith are able to communicate via force projection, what is the point of the holograms?
Yeah, well, for non-force users, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes
And that's
sense.
also
But like,
like details like that aren't really that annoying to me. I see that as like a
nitpick.
yeah, no, yeah, sort of. Because I think if it benefits the story, I don't really mind if they go against like Star Wars lore or anything. I'm not that like into. I'm not that into world building overall, world building, and especially now with Star Wars. I mean, as long as it benefits the story, it's okay. Sure, some of the things in The Last Jedi are so like blatantly just breaking lore that it even bothered me, but I'm not as annoyed with those things, though. I gotta say, but it's still though when Leia flies through space back into the ship, that was like. No, that was too much for me. Sure, she's force sensitive, but how can she use the force? First of all, how does she survive in space? That kind of annoyed me because that's kind of. I know it's a movie, but it was breaking the rules of reality. You die instantly when you're exposed to space. Sorry, but that was so ridiculous.
Well, that and visually, it looked terrible because I mean. Like, okay, I don't want to speak poorly of the dead, but let's face it. No. Carrie Fisher had limited mobility as is. You know, you could see her in the movie. She was struggling. She, you know, you could hear it in her voice. You could see it in her movement. She was struggling. And for her to do something like that in the context of the movie suspends everybody's disbelief because you can see in the movie that she's barely standing, and like, yeah, it's kind of hard to see because you love Carrie Fisher, you love her in the original films and all that kind of stuff, but like, she's old, and she was old, and you know, she just couldn't do what the new trilogy wants her to do. And I'm hearing rumors that she has a bigger role in the next movie, and it's like, how much footage did they cut from The Last Jedi of her?
Yeah, that never works out well also when they're going to try to cobble together stuff from the other movies to try to like continue this character.
Yeah, because they said that
it's going to look weird.
CGI or
that would be very disrespectful. She hasn't even been dead for 3 years yet. I mean, no. We can't do that. Yeah, that's it's gonna be weird. I mean, I don't know how into the Fast and Furious movies you are.
I haven't seen any of them.
Oh, okay. They're very entertaining. I'll say that. But they did the similar thing. You know, Paul Walker died when he had a bunch of footage left for the seventh movie in the franchise, and it just shows that there was so much stuff they didn't finish with his character. So he used to be like the main character of the franchise. Now he was barely in the movie because he'd only filmed like a few of the stunts. So they had to like rework the script around that character. And I get the feeling, and it clearly shows in the finished product. And I think the same thing is going to happen with episode 9.
Yeah,
I think it doesn't matter how much unused footage they have. They had a script written for her when she was alive, and now they have to like use existing footage. Ugh, I don't know, man.
Right, and on top of that, like Kathleen Kennedy has like fired 3 different directors. You know, she fired the director of Rogue One, had a new guy come in, essentially save the film, from what I've heard. And I actually really liked Rogue One. It had the Star Wars feels to me, and it felt canon to me.
I liked it at first. On repeat viewings, I thought it was the most boring thing ever up until they get to Scarif. then it's definitely more interesting. It's fun, exciting, it's fast paced, but I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan.
Okay.
Honestly, the one movie I like the most, and it's still not really that good, is Solo. I don't know what your opinion is on Solo.
Oh, very different opinion. I
Okay.
hated that movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's a good movie. It's like at best it's a 5 out of 10, but at least it was detached from the big Ray Kylo Ren story, all that the Skywalker trilogy as they're calling it. Um, and it was something different. It was a sort of a heist movie. I mean, it was a terrible heist movie, but at least it was something else. So
Yeah, I really wish that Star Wars had taken the Marvel model and made different types of movies within the franchise.
mm,
And I can see what you're saying with Solo, like at least trying to make an attempt to make a different type of movie. Um, the Mandalorian is kind of what I wanted to see a Star Wars movie be. I just saw a little bit of the trailer, but yeah, I really wanted to get more into like the seedy underbelly
mm,
of Star Wars. One of the things that I loved about Star Wars when I was like 8 or 9 years old was just how gritty and grimy it was.
yeah.
Like really embracing some of the elements of spaghetti westerns, along with samurai films and etc.
Hmm.
I liked the look of everything being worn. You know, the moral ambiguity of most characters. Like you had Jedi and Sith, which were like pure good and pure evil, but then you had like everybody on the outside that was like a complete moral gray. And I really would have liked to have seen more of that, and still would like to see more of like the outliers of Star Wars. Like Star Wars doesn't always have to be about Jedi and Sith.
No. Yeah, but at the same time, they mentioned. I don't know if you watch Red Letter Media on YouTube.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, they mentioned the same thing in one of their Star Wars videos. I remember that probably the audience wouldn't latch onto it if it wasn't Jedi versus Sith, and then we kind of see that with Solo because Solo tanked.
I think
It
it
doesn't have
tanked
to be
just because it
because
was a
of
bad
that, but
movie.
yeah, I guess. But I mean, it's Star Wars. People should have gone and see it because it's Star Wars. People are kind of attached to the brand. So, but I don't know. I think trying to build a bigger franchise that is not involving lightsabers and the Force and Sith and all that as much. I think that might be a problem because then it's just going to be a random like a sci-fi movie. It won't be Star Wars. I think that could be a problem. I mean, if they manage, that would be great because then it could actually be interesting. But I don't see that happening.
Well, I do know that Benioff and Weiss are apparently
Mm.
working on something. Now, I heard recently that Ryan Johnson is being attached to it, which has me terrified. Um, but I do think that Benioff and Weiss with Game of Thrones does an interesting thing of establishing different. I mean, it's based on George R. R. Martin's work, but
Mm.
establishing different factions and making you interested in each different faction. Like it's funny watching Game of Thrones how my allegiances have completely changed. My favorite characters have changed season to season, and it's gotten to the point now where I'm rooting for the bad guys. But
But I gotta ask, I'm not really that into Game of Thrones. I haven't watched it since like season 2 or 3, because I'm not big on TV shows overall. But anyway, are there really good guys and bad guys? From what I remember, everyone's kind of sort of bad.
um, I would say that the Starks align more with like the good.
Yeah, I guess.
But like everybody else, yeah, there's a serious moral gray zone.
Mm.
And it is kind of funny because recently, some of the actions that Daenerys Targaryen has made, I find horrendous and dictatorial, and I find her to be a tyrant. And like everybody's just like, yes, you know, she's amazing. And I'm like, no, like actually pay attention to what she's doing. She's a horrible leader.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what happens when viewers get like attached to a character, and they kind of stop seeing it as fiction almost. Not they people still understand it's fiction, but you know what I mean. They get very very attached to a certain character. They don't just watch it as a show. They watch it almost like they want to see what happens to that character. That's why what I have. Now we're digressing a little bit. I'm sorry, but
no,
that's why I have a hard time watching like TV shows, because I don't like to get attached to characters on that level for that long. I enjoy the like 2.5 hour format of a movie, because then it's easier to like you can actually spot when a good character does like a bad thing. So,
I mean, I agree with you, but I would say at the same time, if you follow any of the Marvel movies, like the Marvel movies are just like long form TV shows now.
Yeah. That's kind of why I don't like the Marvel movies.
Okay.
I like some of them, but as a whole, nah, it's gone on for too long. End it. But yeah, Star Wars.
Star Wars. So yeah, this new trailer came out, and I just want to ask, what did you think of it? Like when you first saw it?
As someone who is not at all interested in the movie, I found it completely like it had no effect on me, except for one thing, because all it was just once again to paraphrase Red Letter Media, it was just vistas, it was just pictures. There was no, I mean, it is a teaser, so they should only tease, but it was so that the images were so carefully picked, I guess, from the movie, and the music was used so perfectly. It was perfectly designed to get an emotional reaction out of you if you have any sort of attachment to Star Wars. And that comes off very artificial to me that aren't really attached to Star Wars anymore. It just felt like product. It wasn't really it was not emotional at all, except for the very, very end when we heard that laughter, and that made me angry.
It made me angry too, and I
had an emotional reaction, I suppose. The wrong emotional reaction.
Yeah, I can't wait until we get to that. But like, so I had very mixed emotions on the trailer. I still am not convinced that Rey is a compelling character. When I watched the trailer, you know, it starts out and it's almost exactly like the Force Awakens trailer. She's in the middle of the desert. What's going on?
Yeah, that's true.
And you know, instead of Finn, it's her.
Yeah.
But then you see her do like this weird turn, and then she runs away from this. I forget what it's called. It's some modification of a TIE fighter.
Yeah.
But she's running away from that. Then she does the flip. I don't know if she like strikes the TIE fighter down or whatever. I don't know if Kylo Ren's in it. You know, all of that is made for us, you know, made to tease, made for us to go like, you know, what's going on? Based on her movements, it's one of those things that I find frustrating with the actress Daisy Ridley. Like almost everything seems forced and calculated when she's doing that. And like, if that is training, like if what she's doing is training, then those motions would make sense. If that is actually in the context of the movie and that's how she's running, you know, all that kind of stuff, it looks terrible to me.
And I gotta say though that the very first shots you talked about spaghetti westerns and samurai movies, it made me think of like, it's especially like Sergio Leone movies.
Oh yeah,
the desert, the very very like it's not 16 millimeters anymore, but it almost looked at a very very narrow scope. It looks very pretty, but there was no substance in the teaser. So I thought that was interesting, that because it almost looked like the man with no name reaching for his gun. I was like, oh, that's cool. But then, the flip, it looked a little ridiculous. And then it was just, oh, look at this, remember that, remember this. It's like, I don't care. So the only other thing except for the laughter was when we see Poe with I don't remember. The C-3PO is on some sort of speeder going through, I guess it's the desert. That looked kind of cool, I guess, because it reminded me of Mad Max Fury Road. But it doesn't have any, like, I don't have any frame of reference for what it is. It's just an image, so it didn't interest me more than on a purely visual level.
And then we see the Millennium Falcon again in Lando Calrissian. Yeah. And like part of me is just dreading it because of what's happened in the past 2 films. It's like, okay, so you killed off Han Solo, you killed off Luke Skywalker, Carrie Fisher is dead, so yeah. You're gonna have to kill off Leia in some way, I think.
Yeah. Do you think that's gonna feel? I mean, if they kill her off in the movie, because she's not gonna die off screen, I think, if they're gonna kill her, is that maybe a little insensitive, or has enough time passed that it's okay? I don't know. It's a very precarious situation, I would say.
I mean, I would say probably the best way they could have done it was in the last film, just have her explode in the ship.
Yeah, she doesn't really add any much to the movie anyway, so get rid of her.
If you could do something like that, I'd be okay with that. Or I don't know, because like, you know, there's so many limitations that they have because you don't have a living actress anymore. I mean, I guess you could get back of the headshots if that's what you want to do. I'm guessing that's what they might do. Like they might use a stunt double, but like never actually show the face. I'm not really sure. There's so many limitations that you have when you don't have an actress alive and you're trying to incorporate her as a pivotal character in the next movie.
Yeah. It's very strange. It's if I would go and see the movie, it would be because of that, just to see how they handle that. Because I'm not sure I'm going to go see the movie. I didn't actually go see. Solo was the first Star Wars movie I didn't see in theaters, at least since I was born. I've seen all the others in theaters because, like, after The Last Jedi, I just didn't care anymore. I rented it on YouTube. And this one, I might not even rent it because I have no interest anymore. Just going back to that a little bit. And yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I have to see it just for vindication. like there's almost like a hatred that like is buried so deep in me that it's like, no, I have to watch it. I have to watch it with an audience. I have to be that cynical asshole that doesn't say anything in the theater and is just like fucked up Star Wars.
Yeah, that's how I felt when I watched The Last Jedi, because I wasn't even really interested in going to see that. My sister actually paid for my ticket, so that's the only reason I really did go and see it. And I was just a complete like deadpan throughout the entire movie. I did not enjoy it at all. Not a lot of people seem to enjoy it either, though, in my theater, but some at least like laughed at the jokes and gasped at the revelations. But I don't know.
Yeah, I had that in my theater with The Last Jedi. Like people were like shocked about the Snoke getting killed moment. People were like cheering when Princess Leia came up, and
yeah. I gotta ask. Just going back quickly to The Last Jedi. We're talking about it. What was your theater's reaction when he chucked the lightsaber over his shoulder? Like, do you remember did people laugh or
people laughed?
Really? Oh my god, that was when I stopped even liking the movie even a little bit, because that was just it's so disrespectful.
Well, it also retroactively ruins that great moment at the end of The Force Awakens.
yeah. It ruins the ending of the last movie. It's so weird.
I really would like to see somebody, and maybe it's online, but I'd like to see somebody edit both of those scenes together to see how well they actually match up.
There are a couple. They're not like perfectly edited together because and then you actually see there are a lot of changes, like to their stances and where they're actually standing. But it also doesn't match. It doesn't match in like color grading. And it's obviously like an afterthought that he's going to do that, because otherwise they would have filmed that scene when they were shooting Force Awakens. But
Right.
it's a completely different day. It's overcast instead of sunny. So it doesn't really match up well at all.
Yeah, it makes me wonder because like continuity people are very important. I always like having one on my set. There were a lot of continuity errors. Other than that, that was a big one. Kylo Ren's scars.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
like it's one way in
Force
it's
Awakens.
one way in the Force Awakens, and it's the other way in the Last Jedi, which like that's so obvious of a mistake that it just makes viewers think that something else is going on.
That's just because I was so like irritated with Ryan Johnson. I get the feeling because he wants to subvert expectations and like do his own thing, like like almost like on purpose, just move the scar because it feels like something he would do just to mess with people. I don't know. I get that aura from him. Like he wants to like make people like irritated. So it's like,
Yeah.
let's move the scar a couple of inches to the left just to annoy people. Why not?
Well, and it seems like most of the people who actually love the movie are like, oh, it subverted my expectations. So you like the movie because it wasn't what you expected. And that's really the only reason why you like it, right?
Yeah. I saw someone on Twitter. I follow a lot of hashtag film Twitter people, and most of them just adore the movie. And like someone wrote that it was the best looking blockbuster, both technically and artistically, in the last 10 years. And a lot of people like were agreeing and liking it. I was like, wait. Have you seen Mad Max Fury Road? Like,
Right.
Are you kidding me? That is a work of art, literally. So I don't know. I think like on both sides, both people that hate it and people that love it, they love it or hate it just because, and their feelings are amplified because the other side are saying no, you're wrong for liking it, or no, you're wrong for hating it, and people just get even more like set in their ways. I think like if you just look at it completely unbiased or objectively, it's it's an okay movie technically, and but as a part of a larger franchise, it just ruins what the franchise was and is going to be. So
Yeah.
I don't understand the like unconditional love or unconditional hate I suppose people have for it.
All right. So let's get into it. With
Yeah,
Star
that's
Wars Episode 9,
yes.
at the very end of the trailer, the thing that everybody's been talking about is Emperor Palpatine's laugh. Is he alive? To what capacity is he alive? Et cetera, et cetera. That is J.J. Abrams' mystery box given to the world. Everybody can talk about it. I'm really scared because I love Vader's redemption, and I think it's going to ruin it.
Yeah. If Palpatine or the Emperor, if he comes back, if he was always there, because no one's ever really gone, as they say. That just means that nothing they did in the old trilogy or in this new trilogy, nothing matters, because he just they didn't accomplish anything. He was always there. He was always controlling everything. It has all been for nothing. The entire franchise almost is just, it means nothing because we'll just bring him back.
Well, I mean, honestly, I would have liked to have seen in the new trilogy for the Rebellion to actually have created, I forget what they're called now. The Rebellion. I know they're called the Resistance, but there was something else. Sorry. But I would have liked if I'll just call them the Republic.
Okay.
I would have liked for the rebuilding of the Republic and for these new trilogy of films to be about the remaining members of like the Empire starting almost like their own rebellion and moving up that way,
Mm.
because technically speaking, the rebellion should be on top, and the empire should be down.
Yeah, because that's where return ends. Like they won, but all of a sudden, all these years later, there's still like this small, almost like terrorist like group or freedom fighter group, depending on which side you're on. And they're still on the run, and the new empire, or the first sons, or first order, I mean, are this great force that can destroy planets. Like, so nothing changed in the last 30 years or 40 years or whatever it was.
I mean, that's what Luke Skywalker tried to explain why he tried to kill Kylo Ren. It was like, oh, we defeated them, and they just came back, and he was like terrified that Kylo Ren was going to become the new Vader, and it was essentially a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, exactly. He created Kylo Ren by trying to kill Ben. But then also, like, then it also feels that the original trilogy seems kind of futile, because all they did is undone by these new movies. Like even if that, but the Republic is still the ruling party, or whatever you want to call it, in the galaxy. Yeah, but they wipe out the Republic with the Starkiller base like halfway through the movie. So then we're literally back to where the whole franchise started. So it's like, and that's because they wanted to essentially reboot Star Wars. I get that, but as because they wanted to basically retell the story for a new audience. But as someone who has been as part of the old audience, it's like, it's just the same. They're not trying to do anything new. And then when they want to do something new with The Last Jedi, they just ruined what was before. There was no balance between what's new and what's old.
One of the only things that I think might be good with the Disney Fox merger is that we might actually get the original versions of Star Wars, because that was actually the legal there were some legal hangups, because Fox technically owned the original trilogy, and we weren't able to have that. And then George Lucas made these god-awful versions that now are what people see. Like, unless you go online and bootleg the despecialized editions, or watch the VHS versions, you are getting a bastardized version of the original Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah. And I actually pretty recently this year watched the despecialized versions. I had only seen, well, I had seen the VHS versions before, so I had seen the sort of original versions, but to see them now in HD and all that, it has a different, definitely has a different feeling to it. It feels more like a coherent movie, instead of having a bunch of these old 80s and 70s kind of effects with these newer but still kind of crappy looking 90s effects. So that could be good if it happens. I've heard that Lucas still has some say in what happens with the first Star Wars, Episode 4. Even now that Disney owns Fox, he still has like some hand in it but only with the first one, not Empire or Jedi Return. We have to say now, because with The Last Jedi, I know there's 2 Jedi movies. So I don't know. Hopefully we get the original movies. But at the same time, the way Disney's been treating the franchise, it doesn't seem that they really care about the original trilogy anymore. They've killed off all the characters. And they're really trying to bank on these new characters. So I'm wondering if they're even gonna care about the old movies anymore. I don't know.
With this new one, no one's ever really dead.
That's true. Yeah. They're gonna try and sell it as a big 18 disc super box or something with all the movies 1 through 9. Maybe. I don't know.
But I can't imagine somebody, like a young person, who actually gets to experience the movies how it's intended, to watch episode 1 through 9 in that order. Like like part of me is just like, oh man, I feel so bad for you if that's how you're watching Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the biggest like reveals in cinema history is ruined if you watch it in chronological order.
I don't know. It's now part of this cultural zeitgeist. So
Yeah,
like
it
King Kong
is.
dying and all that kind of stuff, like people know
I
nowadays.
guess. Yeah.
But
But still then just on a dramaturgical level, that big like second end of second act reveal in Empire is ruined, but it was ruined by the prequels, so you
yeah,
can't blame Disney for that.
I did think it was interesting how they some fans like gave like a certain order when you're watching it for the first time. They were like, watch
Oh
episode
yeah.
4 and 5 and then watch the prequels and then watch episode 6 and then watch the sequels.
Yeah, with the machete something.
Yeah.
The machete order or something, I don't know. But then yeah, they want you to like completely cut out episode 1, which is it's not even the worst prequel in my opinion. I think Attack of the Clones is much worse.
Yeah, I would agree. I would also say that Revenge of the Sith is probably the only one that is almost watchable.
Yeah, that's it's a halfway decent movie. I remember reading the reviews, like people when they premiered it at Cannes, which is kind of funny. And people are saying like, "Oh, rewind it so I can watch it again. It's the greatest Star Wars movie ever made." And I was so excited because I had actually been sitting outside of the cinema in one of the cinemas in Stockholm and like just waiting to get a ticket, a physical ticket. So I was so excited to go see it. I really liked it back then, but just as with episode 1 and 2, going back watching them now, there's a lot of problems with those movies. But that one is, yeah, it's the most watchable of the 3, definitely.
Yeah. You know, still has a lot of problems. I hate Ian McDermott's performance at one moment in the film when he does the no part. Like,
yeah.
Okay, George Lucas just needs to stop Well, George Lucas, I know he's essentially stopped directing, but like anytime he has a character say no, and he's actually directing, it sounds bad.
That's true. Yeah, I haven't thought about that. Everyone remembers the no when Darth Vader yells at the end, but yeah, Luke yelling no in Empire, that's kind of bad. And
no, that was that. I actually really like that one, but that's
okay.
that's
I think he's
that was
overdoing it a
Irving
little bit.
Kershner who directed.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's right. Sorry. Yeah. Ugh. But I still think Mark Hamill kind of overacted there a little bit maybe.
I love it.
I love it too, but I mean, if you're just looking at the acting, it's a little too much maybe. But yeah. What were we talking about? Star Wars, right?
Yeah. So getting back to Star Wars Episode 9. So
yes,
after this, they are going on a long hiatus outside of like TV shows and stuff. So there's going to be plenty of Star Wars, but they're moving it to a smaller market. Maybe so that they can put it on streaming services so people bitch about it less. That's what I see. And so they can hide the numbers. Which is what Netflix does all the time. We don't know Netflix numbers. You know, the only time we ever know how well a show's doing on Netflix is when they reveal that information to us.
Yeah, I mean, and they're kind of vague about it even then. They mention that, oh, we have this many people subscribed to Netflix. Yeah, but how many actually watched this movie the first day it was on there? Oh, we don't know. It was a lot of people.
Yeah, I call bullshit on that. They know exactly, which is why certain shows get canceled and certain shows stay on.
Exactly. Right. So, but that's also about them taking a hiatus. Like, they're ending this trilogy, but they're not going to like stop making movies. They're taking a hiatus, but Star Wars is always going to make money, even if it's not going to make as much money as it used to. It's always going to make money. So there's someday they're going to come back to making more movies.
Do you
And
think that the movies are going to be released in theaters? Because like right now, um, I see it happening on their streaming service. I because I think they're going to milk the Marvel franchise in the theaters, but I think they might move Star Wars to the home and outside of the theaters just because one movie bombed.
well, that is a possibility. But then I was going to say that the more movies they make, the more they dilute what's actually good about Star Wars. And if they're going to relegate it to like direct to video or directed to Netflix or what you want to call it, Disney Plus, that feels like they don't really. That feels more like even more like a disservice. Like I know the new format is streaming services. Theaters are eventually going to die out. There might be some like a small like art house cinemas left, but the big multiplexes are going to disappear eventually. And I
Once the
understand.
Marvel franchise dies.
Yeah, exactly. And while I understand that the industry is evolving and I to some degree think that's good, I still am very nostalgic for movies that come out in theaters because the whole theater experience is still very. I haven't really been to a bad screening. I've been to a few bad screenings, but like just imagine watching a new Star Wars movie if we like the Star Wars movies, and it comes out and you're watching it on your TV. And say, yeah, it's a big screen TV, but you're sitting there. It's not the same thing, unfortunately. So if
Well,
they,
and I know for a fact when I watch things at home, I tend to look at my phone. I tend to like make comments with my girlfriend,
yeah,
that kind of thing. Like it's a different experience. Whereas like I go to a theater, I'm paying attention to the movie. And I love the fact that I live in Austin, so we have the Alamo Drafthouse,
mm,
which is one of the best theaters in the world, because there are tons of rules that you have to actually abide by. You can't talk during the movie, or you actually get kicked out.
oh, that's that would be very nice here in Sweden. We don't have those rules, unfortunately. But yeah, and then Star Wars is gonna be even less special because now it's just something they churn out to make more money. That's what they're doing right now, but at least there's a little bit of effort in putting them in theaters and making it a big spectacle. But now it's just going to be something they make for TV. It's just like, if it comes to that, I say just stop making them. Honestly, stop making them. You've almost run it into the ground already. Just from a yeah, from a financial viewpoint, they yeah, keep making them because you're going to make money. But from an artistic viewpoint, stop making them. You're just making Star Wars worse and worse.
Well, I really wish that they had a creative force behind Star Wars, kind of like Kevin Feige with Marvel. I know that you're not like a huge fan of the Marvel films, but like
No, but I see why they're successful. I see why people like them. It's just not what I like about movies.
yeah, but there's a cohesive vision with those films.
Yes, and Feige should be applauded for that. Who keeping that humongous franchise together
Yeah,
as well as he has.
almost 20 films now. That's insane.
It is 20 films, isn't it? Isn't Endgame the 21st?
Oh,
maybe
shit.
I'm.
I don't know. I thought it was 18, but you might be right.
Hold on. MCU movies. Let's see. Marvel Cinematic Universe. Feature films. Oh, Jesus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Endgame is 22. Jesus fucking Christ. In 11 years.
That's insane.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay.
And Star Wars drove the franchise into the ground with what, 4 movies?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They.
I don't think there is Star Wars fatigue. I just think there's bad movie fatigue.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So honestly, like for the sake of the franchise, stop making the movies. Keep selling the old movies. People are gonna keep buying them like
Oh yeah, I
collectors.
mean, like, I can't tell you how many times I go to the store and like most of the stuff that they're selling is stuff from the original trilogy, like images and
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff. Like I got PJs from the original trilogy. They cost me like $6. Like it's great.
yeah, yeah. Because those are the images that people remember. Nobody remembers Anakin Skywalker from Episode 2. Nobody remembers.
Oh, people
Uh,
remember him just for
sure.
the sand part.
Oh yeah, yeah. They don't remember him fondly. They don't remember Watto, or Shmi Skywalker. People remember R2D2, Yoda, Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Darth Vader, Leia. Those are the characters people remember. That's why they're reusing them in the new trilogy.
Oh, have
They
you
want to create this new trilogy, but they're only reusing the old stuff. So
Well, okay, so I thought the pugs were bad, but have you seen this new character that's Chewbacca's friend? Like
oh
Chewbacca needs to
no,
stop having friends. Like because it was terrible in the holiday special. We didn't need to see his
yeah,
family. Um,
no,
and it was terrible with the porgs. But this new character
I
looks
don't. I
like
haven't
a
seen
cross
him.
between I forget what his name is, but he's on the poster. He looks like a cross between Jar Jar Binks and Jabba the Hutt. I am not
Um,
kidding you. He looks awful. It looks like the worst design I have ever seen in Star Wars.
Let me see if I can find the poster just to see
Here,
it.
I'm gonna have to look because I can probably pull it up and get a good image of it.
Yeah, because if you just search for Episode 9 poster, it doesn't show up. I haven't looked at the poster. Like I said before, I wasn't really interested. Um, yeah, like introducing these cute sidekicks, it's just to sell more toys. And from the disappointing sales of Porg toys, why are they even trying anymore?
Because they want to milk it.
Yeah, but how long can you milk that cow? How long can you milk that weird sea monster? I don't know.
All right, so I'm gonna try to send you a picture. I'm gonna look and see if I have. Okay, so right here,
Yeah.
if you look right behind Finn, that's what the character looks
Oh.
like.
Oh no, is that going to be an actual character in the movie?
Yeah, apparently he's friends with Chewbacca.
Oh god. All right. All right. Hey, maybe he's a great character. He's funny, he has an arc. Who knows? I don't think so, but who knows?
I mean,
Oh.
like I've complimented even some of the bad films for great alien designs, but like
Oh, sure.
that guy looks worse than the porgs. Like
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like the porgs to me just look like low rent Ewoks.
Yeah, exactly. They're the new cute thing. And it's so obvious that it's just a marketing ploy. I hated them. It was cool that they were mostly like real animatronics, but as a design, yeah, it was ridiculous. They served no purpose in the movie.
Well, and you could say the same with like the stormtrooper designs and stuff like that. Like they slightly changed them so they could sell more toys.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
slightly changed the ships so they could sell more toys. Like
Yeah.
the fact that the Millennium Falcon had like what the ejection pod, like that's actually what's been missing the whole time with the Millennium Falcon. Yeah, that was pretty lame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's almost I know the extended universe isn't canon anymore, but that had almost become lore that the actual the indentation was for pushing like freights or whatever you call it, crates and stuff in space because it's a what do you call it? It's a ship for like a freight train, but a spaceship, a freight ship, I suppose. So the changing that to some sort of like ejection pod thing, yeah, it's also like just changing things to make fans angry. I don't really understand why.
Honestly, I wish they had hired I really wish they had hired a whole bunch of like hardcore Star Wars fans um, to be it's kind of like history buffs, how you
Mm,
get like certain fans of certain franchises and you hire them as like authenticity consultants. I wish they had done that with Star Wars. Like
yeah.
hire somebody who like knows the lore and just bat it back to them and say, "Oh, is this consistent or whatever?" Because I guarantee you somebody would love to have that job.
Oh yeah.
And
Imagine having
and
that job title.
and you could even have a show that like questions like all the kind of stuff. You could create so much with just trying to hire like people to be authenticity consultants for Star Wars to fix some of this shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that that would have been interesting. But then also, I think, I mean, they wouldn't have given up creative control to some random person, but it would be them like relinquishing some, just a little part of creative control. And I don't think they're comfortable with that when that much money is involved to
I
have
don't
like
know, they seem to
to
give
hire a
Ryan
dissenting voice.
Johnson almost infinite control. This was the first Star Wars film in a long time that had the director and the writer making the film. Now, granted, George Lucas did that, but I mean, like, outside of, his own little passion projects, this has been the first time in a long time
Yeah,
that.
the only other is the first one, Star Wars, if you don't count the prequels, because yeah, there was like his own little like independently funded films almost. It's not the
Right.
same thing. Yeah, and I wonder why. Why were they so confident in him? I don't know. He's like, yeah, his track record was good, but it wasn't that long. He had like a couple of films, some
Yeah.
TV shows.
Budget. They
Yeah,
weren't big budget films. Looper, like, was shot for what, like under 20 million?
I think it was like 12 million or something. I remember.
Yeah, and then you had, I mean, Breaking Bad was definitely bigger budget, but that was still TV.
Yeah.
And Brick is like the quintessential indie film. Like,
Mm.
like almost everything about it except Joseph Gordon-Levitt makes it indie.
Yeah, yeah. I that came out in like 2005 or something. I haven't
Yeah.
seen it in probably 10 years.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, it's good. It's a very interesting concept. But I don't know what happened with Star Wars. Like looking at another friend, yeah, he worked on Breaking Bad. He didn't like try to subvert anyone's expectations there. He just made really good episodes of Breaking Bad.
Yeah. But I think that was because he had a writing team that was kind of putting him in check.
Yeah.
Which, like, maybe that's what he needs. He just needs to be surrounded by people that are not yes men. Because we know for a fact that Star Wars, behind a whole bunch of yes men, just brings out crap films.
Yeah, then you get the prequels.
Yeah. Which, like, as much as I hate The Last Jedi, I'm never going to argue that objectively it's worse than the prequels. Now, I can say that a lot of plot points and a lot of stuff, like, in that way it's worse. But, like, as a film, no, the prequels are worse.
Yes, they are. On a technical level, on a filmmaking level, yes, they are.
Well,
I gotta
there
say
is
though,
something to be admired with the prequels as far as like production design and visual effects for the time and stuff like that.
sure, yeah, I agree with that. And I gotta say, even since The Last Jedi came out, I have seen the prequels more times since then than I have seen The Last Jedi, because it's movies that I watch sometimes with friends, not as much as we used to because we're all kind of tired of Star Wars. But and I can look back at them and remember them fondly. Even like watching them now, I can like have fun watching them. I don't have fun when I watch The Last Jedi. I've seen it twice. I've seen it once in theaters and then once later, and I can't even like have fun with it because it's so bad that it's funny, like the prequels are. It's just not an enjoyable movie in any way.
Did you see the trailer for the video game?
Yes, the Fallen Order thing, Jedi Fallen Order. Yeah,
What did you
that was
think in comparison to the episode 9 trailer?
well. First of all, we got kind of an idea of what the story was about, or at least like what we got an idea of who that character is and what's going to happen. I thought that was a very interesting concept for a movie. I said a movie. I was going to get to that. I think at least the first half of the trailer that looks like that could be a really good Star Wars movie.
Yeah,
Like because there other than Luke Skywalker, there are no more Jedi's. Because it takes place. It's after the episode 4? And wait, when does it take place?
It's before episode 4.
All right, before episode 4.
3 and episode 4. You know, when there are still Jedi running from Darth Vader, and
so it's the same time period as the Force Unleashed games.
Yeah,
and that's very interesting because like there are no more the Jedi Order has fallen. There's no one left, and then this random person just discovers that, oh fuck, I have Jedi power, Force powers, and he has to try to like hide that. I thought that was very interesting, but then it just became kind of action schlock, which I get because it's a game and it still looked interesting. But I thought that premise for a Star Wars movie could be very interesting.
I mean, I was watching it going like, why couldn't that have been our new trilogy?
Yeah, exactly. That could have been very interesting.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's an interesting concept. Like it gets a little spoiled with too much action, but like I said, that's because it's a game. It's an action game, so they have to show off all the action.
Yeah,
but I think that character in that situation is like more interesting than Rey is, and we've seen her in 2 movies.
Well, one of the things that I've been trying to ask people, and I still haven't got an answer, is, I mean, I will make the argument that she doesn't, but I do try to ask people, what is Rey's arc? What has she accomplished for herself? What are her relations with people? How has her character changed? What struggles has she faced? And I'm coming up with blanks, and I'm trying really hard to think about it. And maybe you can help me, because I've watched these films a couple times, and I just don't see, like, she seems to do everything effortlessly, and I don't find that interesting.
Yeah, well, that's the Mary Sue argument, which I don't agree 100% with, but I definitely see why people call her a Mary Sue character. And just she starts out as an orphan on what is Jakku. Then she goes on an adventure. She gets to know some people, but she never really she doesn't grow. Not in The Force Awakens. She doesn't grow. I thought that was going to happen more in The Last Jedi because of her training with Luke. But that is...
She barely had any training.
Yeah, she doesn't have any training, and he doesn't even want to train her. She doesn't really learn anything about herself other than she's a blank slate. Like, literally, when she looks at herself in a mirror, she only sees herself. There's nothing else there. There's no substance to her. There's only her as a person. She doesn't learn anything about herself from Luke Skywalker. She only learns that he has given up, basically. Nothing about her ever grows or evolves. She makes other characters around her sort of grow and evolve a little bit, but no. She almost feels like a plot tool more than a character, almost.
Yeah, I think that's really unfortunate because, like, quite frankly, you know, even though I have some issues with Daisy Ridley's physical performance, I do think that she is a competent enough actor that if given the material, she would be able to, you know, make us care for a more compelling character. We just haven't gotten it. And yeah, I do try to avoid, you know, I've said it in the past, but like the more I've kind of talked to people and stuff like that, I do try to avoid words like Mary Sue because I don't like to be divisive. You know, I like to actually, you know, try to break down like what it is about a character instead of just immediately putting a label on them like that.
Exactly. There's nowhere to take the conversation after someone says, "Nah, she's a Mary Sue."
Yeah.
It's just, oh, stop. So yeah, I don't use it either. Not all, sometimes it happens, but more before than now. I kind of changed how I approach like Star Wars in conversations with people, because I was very like adamantly like against The Last Jedi the first like few months after the movie came out. I was furious, but the more I talked to people, I realized that it's futile to try to change people's minds. If they like it, they're gonna keep liking it. And like it's even changed how I look at movies as a passion of mine. Like in the end, it's just a movie. I don't really care enough to argue with you over a movie. Not that movie, at least. Maybe some other movie, but not Star Wars anymore. It's not important enough to me anymore. I don't care.
It's still really important to me just because, like, you know, I saw the original films before the special editions came out.
Okay.
And, you know, I kind of fell in love with it then. At that time, my mom was like really strict. Yeah, I grew up with a strict mom. My mom was really strict of what I watched. So like this was the most violent thing that I had watched too at that time. It was kind of something that I grew attached to because of it essentially being something that I hadn't seen before.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the first time I saw them, it was when they re-released the special editions in what, 97 or something. Just when they started talking about the prequels. So I remember my dad bought the VHS box and I saw them. But those were the special editions. So I don't have as much of a problem with the special editions because that was the first versions I saw. But I mean, in hindsight, yeah, the originals are much better. But I've never really, like, for years, I didn't understand when people said Han shoots first. I was like, what are you talking about? He clearly shoots second in the movie. And then I saw the original, like, oh, okay. So, but yeah, so
I don't know. My argument has always been, what do you mean Han shot first? Han was the only person who did shoot.
Exactly. Yeah, he's the only one that shoots in the original. That's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, Star Wars was, and I was 97, so I was 8, or I was gonna turn 8. Yeah, I'm born in December '89, so I'm almost born in the '90s.
Okay, I was born in '86. So.
Oh, okay.
So I had a little bit of time before the Star Wars special editions came out, and I was super excited. Saw it on my birthday, the special edition, and I liked it. I did think the changes were a little bit ridiculous, but I was just like, well, you know, it's cool. That was before the prequels came, and
yeah,
when the prequels came, that's when I was just like, Jar Jar Binks is too much, and that was pretty much all I had to say about Star Wars Episode 1.
Okay.
Darth Maul was awesome. They killed him off too soon, but nobody's ever really dead.
Nope, we've seen that. Yeah, he fell down that shaft. He was cut in half, but yeah, no one's ever really gone. He can come back, right?
Well, just like Luke and now Emperor Palpatine, anybody who falls down a shaft is probably alive.
Yeah. And then just to get back to episode 9 a little bit and talking about how they just bring characters back, if they're going to bring him back, or if that was just a tease with a laugh. They fall into the same kind of pit that a lot of comics do, where they just kill off characters and then bring them back. Characters dying stops having an impact. I mean, if you're diehard comics fan, you still enjoy it. But like me, you don't really read comics that much. Like reading the death of Superman doesn't have any impact on me, because I know, oh no, they just brought him back later. Why would I bother, or why would I care that he died? He's just gonna come back. So if they're gonna start bringing people back from the dead, then they're like, the stakes are erased. Anyone can just come back.
Well, it is possible that, I mean, there are a couple different theories that are given. The theories that I've seen online are, the expanded universe, he's a clone, like he made clones of himself. Another one is that the dark side also has force ghosts.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well. My friends talking about that. Force ghosts, basically.
I have an interesting theory that I think that it's possible that Rey was brought into existence just like Anakin. And I honestly think, based on the line that was given in Revenge of the Sith, that it's very possible that Emperor Palpatine was instrumental in willing Anakin to life, and might have been the same for Rey.
Sure. And but that's not confirmed lore, is it? That they created him by the will of the Force? It's just a fan theory, isn't it?
No, because Shmi in Star Wars Episode 1 does say that that Anakin has no father.
Yeah, there was no father. I carried him, I gave birth to him. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the whole virgin birth thing. Like there's so many parallels to Christianity in Star Wars that you can't avoid it. Yeah. But that being said, that's possible that that might be Rey's parentage, which, pulling into the title, which we haven't talked about, might be why she is a Skywalker, but not biologically related to like Han or Leia or Luke.
Yeah. But then also, like, once again, on a technical level, like on a lore level, that's interesting. But all those kind of theories, I always have this thought that fan theories like that are they can be interesting if they service the plot of the movie. But it almost, I don't know, that kind of like technical explanation to why Anakin was born, or why Rey was born, I don't know, if we find out that is actually what happened, it kind of demystifies where Anakin came from. Like, do we really need to know where he came from? Do we really need to know where Rey comes from?
We really need to know where Han Solo's name came from?
Exactly. That's never. It's those kind of like unnecessary details that don't move the plot forward. They don't move the characters forward. And that's why I generally dislike fan theories, because it's usually it's these like nerdy detailed stuff that doesn't really, they don't matter to the plot really. I don't know. Maybe you enjoy fan theories. I'm sorry if you do. I do
enjoy fan theories to a certain extent. If they're well thought out, and if they or if they provide something interesting. Like, I do like the fan theory of Taxi Driver, that the ending is in his head while he's like fading out, because that seems to work better in my head. Honestly, I wish the movie had kind of ended as he drifted before that whole like thing where he's just like hanging out with his buddies at the end, and there's like the note to the parents and all that stuff.
That's true. Yeah, I haven't thought about that. But talking about endings that people theorize about, like the ending of Inception. People are still, no, maybe not still, but they for a long time tried to figure out, is he in the dream world or is he in the real world? And I'm like, yeah, that's not the point of that ending.
Yeah, I mean,
it's supposed to be ambiguous. Stop trying to figure it out. And that's kind of how I feel about most fan theories. Stop trying to figure things out. But there are some interesting ones. One of the few that I've actually read it and was like, oh, that's interesting. That's the one about that Heath Ledger's Joker is a soldier with PTSD. That kind of like fleshes out his character a little bit, even though the whole thing with the Joker is that we're not supposed to know. But it's an interesting theory.
Right.
That's why he uses like war paint and why he knows so much about explosives and stuff. That's kind of interesting. But I don't consider that like canon.
Yeah.
The character's supposed to be ambiguous. So, but it's still interesting. So that's kind of how I feel about all the Star Wars fan theories. I block them out.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I do think that there needs to be more embracing of like Star Wars fans and stuff like that. And, making something like The Last Jedi again would be very bad for the franchise.
Yeah.
You need to do something to unify the fan base, because creating something just to subvert expectations is not going to work a second time.
No, not when it is such a big fan favorite. Then you kind of have to pay attention to what the fans want. Even though I usually think that fans should like respect the artistic vision or the opinion of the filmmakers, but when it is a franchise like this or like the MCU, where the fans have become so invested, you kind of have to respect the fans a little bit more than in other franchises.
I do think to a certain extent the filmmakers need to expect the filmmakers that have come before them, and that was one of the things.
Yeah, definitely.
It's one of the things that I felt with The Last Jedi. I felt that Rian Johnson did J.J. Abrams a major disservice by basically throwing out almost all of his plot threads, and coming up with his own ideas for everything. And now he's having to pick up after the pieces. I've seen a meme online where it was like Star Wars Episode 9, fixing what Rian Johnson fucked up. That's kind of what it feels like, because like he had a vision and he stated this, and Rian Johnson did something that that challenged that. He was very respectful in how he presented it. He wasn't like Rian Johnson, who literally told Mark Hamill at a press meeting to shut the fuck up.
Oh yeah, that was terrible.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh, and also, what was I gonna say? Yeah, like he didn't leave anything for J.J. Abrams to like pick up. Like they introduced, if we're going to go into like details, he introduced the thing where you can use faster than light travel to like create make ships into projectiles. Like now they can basically like destroy anything with one ship, or killing off characters that were or introducing characters that have nowhere to grow now, like Rose Tico. What are they going to do with her in the next one? She's just going to be a tag along.
Well, from what I've heard, and I did hear that John Boyega said that he's going to be involved in a love pentagon.
What? That's 5 people. So Rey, Rose, Finn, Poe, and Kylo, I suppose.
Oh no, the new black girl that's that may or may not be Lando Calrissian's daughter.
Oh, I didn't even know about a new character. They're introducing more new characters? Okay.
They're introducing a handful of new characters, that terrible and alien that I showed. Yeah.
But this is supposed to be the end
and
to
then
the trilogy.
Carrie Russell is coming in, and then she's gonna be somebody. So they're adding all these new characters, and it's like, it just feels overloaded right now. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, this is supposed to wrap up the trilogy. How are you supposed to do that with all these new characters?
Right?
They're just gonna be. They can't grow. It's super weird.
Yeah,
you're supposed to introduce new characters in the beginning of a trilogy, and then build those characters to build their arc so that it ends in the third one. Don't introduce new characters.
Quite frankly, I think that this is the most inconsistent. Well, we still have to wait to see the next one, but
Sure.
so far, this has been the most inconsistent trilogy that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And like even including movies where the sequel just is a rehash of the first one are more consistent than what The Last Jedi did.
Yeah. Like any random trilogy that wasn't even supposed to be a trilogy from the beginning, even though I don't like them, look at The Matrix. They're consistent. Even if it's not consistent in quality, but like visually, stylistically, they're consistent.
There certainly was a plan for what they did. I
Yeah.
didn't like where it went, but
No,
there was a certain plan for it.
Yeah, or like Back to the Future, same thing there. It's consistent all the way through. Fucking Pirates of the Caribbean. It's not a trilogy anymore, but it should have been. It should have just been one movie, but that trilogy kind of works as a trilogy.
And we talked about this before, but the Planet of the Apes trilogy, I think I think that's a fascinating trilogy. I would like to see the franchise move from there. But you know, as a self-contained trilogy, it's great.
I would say it's almost perfect as a trilogy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I got to rewatch those again. I haven't seen those in a while.
So good.
They're so good. Yeah, that's how you do a trilogy.
Yeah.
It's not like this.
But you had one central character who had his own struggles and accomplishments and arcs in each individual film. Rey has not had an arc in 2 films. So you essentially have to pull a Logan with the next movie.
Yeah, and I don't think they can do that.
Though that's my expectation for the movie. That's going to be my challenge for the filmmakers. You have to essentially do what Logan did. Be a self-contained movie that is sort of a sequel to all the other stuff, but like is its own thing.
Yeah, and then it's going to be even more of an incoherent trilogy, because then you have one movie that's supposed to start off a trilogy, but they never finish. Then you have a self-contained second movie and a self-contained third movie that tries to wrap up what the other 2 movies made. It's going to be it's going to be a clusterfuck, basically.
Well, I think the biggest mistake that Rian Johnson made with the second movie is picking up immediately after the first movie.
Yeah.
None of the other Star Wars movies did that.
No, there's always a gap.
Yeah.
Like a year or something. They don't specify it, but I mean the movies came out with 3 years, with a 3-year gap. So I'm guessing it's somewhere in between a year and 3 years, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
But here they're stuck. Yeah, they have to continue with what happened in the last movie, but he doesn't want to continue with that. So why do that?
I mean, I've heard a lot of people joke that like they should just not make The Last Jedi canon, and part of me like wants to agree with that.
Yeah.
I know Catholic
Kennedy,
like won't allow that to happen. And like getting into Kathleen Kennedy, I know she's gotten a lot of flack for these movies, but I do partly think that it's her fault. She should know better. I do think that she was heading into unknown territory because, you know, given her track record, she is not too familiar with franchises and sequels. Most of the films that she was focused on were high caliber, you know, solo films.
Yeah, exactly. Like she's produced a lot of good movies.
Yeah.
But they're usually good because of like the director or the writer. She's done a lot of stuff with Steven Spielberg, right?
Yeah, she did a lot of stuff with Steven Spielberg. I think one of the first films she ever produced is one of my favorite films of all time, which is E.T.
Yeah, exactly. But then like that feels like a I don't know much about producing, but it feels like an easy movie to produce because Steven Spielberg had like a vision for that movie. Now in Star Wars, she's more of a showrunner than she is a producer, I suppose. Like I'm just talking out of my ass here. I don't know much about the goings on behind the scenes like that, but it feels more like she has more creative control over these movies than she had in earlier movies. What she she produced Cape Fear. That's interesting. But movies like that with like strong directorial voices.
Yeah.
And now she has to be in charge. And I don't think she's too good at it. Sorry, she isn't.
Well, yeah, when you hire and fire three different directors, I think.
Yeah.
But so Josh Trank was fired.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But I kind of understand that one because when you make a bad Fantastic Four movie, yeah,
and his kind of public meltdown, it wasn't good PR to have him as a director anymore. I think.
Then you fired
Lord and Miller.
Well,
she technically fired the guy that was going to make episode 9. What's his? He made Jurassic World. His name.
He made Jurassic World, and he also made the Book of Henry.
Oh right, yeah, that's why they fired him.
Yeah,
but he made a Safety Not Guaranteed. That's the first movie I saw with him. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Yeah, I saw that movie. I thought it was cute and enjoyable.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good movie. So, but I don't. Yeah, he didn't write that one. That was Derek Connolly. Writing is the big problem though with Colin Trevorrow.
I really wish that they would stop hiring very fresh directors to make big franchise movies. I kind of would like to see a little bit more seasoned directors jump into the game. Sometimes it works, but like, yeah.
I the argument for hiring like fresh-faced directors is because they usually hire people that have made like 1 or 2 like really good movies that people really enjoy, but they're smaller budget, maybe even like independently funded or stuff like that. That's because they want like a strong directorial voice, but also someone that isn't gonna like say no when the producers say, "Oh, do this." Colin Trevorrow wouldn't say, "Oh no, I'm not going to do that." He's just going to say, "Oh, okay," because he's been handed like $200 million to make a movie. He can't just say no and do his own thing. So I think it's a matter of like being able to control or corral the director.
Which is weird because like it doesn't seem like that was the case with Rian Johnson. Like Rian Johnson.
No, The Last Jedi broke all those rules for some reason. Like he wrote it, he directed it, he was the single voice behind the movie. Super weird.
Yeah, it's like
look how it turned out.
We're gonna create these things and they're gonna sell so much. They're called porgs and they're like penguins and pugs.
Yeah. I don't I don't know what happened there. So I gotta wrap up in a little while.
Okay.
Like all we've talked about where the franchise has been, where it is at this point in time. Like, do you think it's gonna? Honestly, do you think Episode 9 is going to work? Is it gonna be a good? Can it be a good movie? Can they salvage it?
Well, like I said before, if they pull off a Logan, maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, how many movies can do that? I'm not as fond of Logan, but I can definitely see what it did right. And I don't think a lot of like mainstream big box office blockbuster movies can do that. I don't think so.
I'm saying in comparison to like X-Men Origins Wolverine and the Wolverine. Like coming from there, you created a solid film from 2 previous horrible films.
Okay. Yeah. But with the people working, like J.J. Abrams as a director, I don't know who's writing it. Is he writing it? Who's Rise of Skywalker? He's writing it together with Chris Terrio. Like Do you think they could write another like Logan? I don't think so.
Well, what else has Chris Terrio done?
Chris
'Cause
Terrio did like didn't he make like uh oh, he wrote Batman versus Superman.
oh God.
He also did write Argo
Well,
though, and I think Argo
David,
is a pretty good movie. So
David S. Goyer also helped write Batman v Superman, and he also wrote The Dark Knight. So
that's true. That's true. But I don't know. I don't think they'll be able to salvage this. I mean, in the eyes of people who like where Star Wars has gone, in the eyes of people that like The Last Jedi, sure, they're gonna just eat it up. They're gonna love it. I don't think they're gonna disappoint those fans. But for fans that were disappointed in where the franchise was going, or that were specifically disappointed in The Last Jedi, I don't think they're gonna change their minds. Like, if I go and see it, I don't think it will be able to change how I see Star Wars now. I don't think so.
the biggest thing I'm worried about is right now, outside of Star Wars, I can't think of another franchise that can even try to compete with the MCU. And quite frankly, I would like to see another franchise that isn't superheroes compete against the MCU.
Yeah. There aren't even that. No, yeah. Most franchises fail nowadays. It feels like
Yeah.
everything, because everything pales in comparison to Marvel. Like well, we talked about it before. I kind of like the Fast and Furious movies. It's like it is a $1 billion franchise, which is kind of weird to say.
I definitely need to check them out. I think
Yeah.
I think I'll just power through them and drink beers while I do it.
Definitely. Yeah, you kind of have to endure the first two ones, because I saw those when I was a kid. That's why I can still enjoy them now. But I mean, with the fifth movie, it actually, they kind of realized that they're not making like important cinema. They're just making stupid action movies. So they have fun with the franchise after that.
Yeah,
And that's why I enjoy them.
well, I like when filmmakers do that. Like, if you're not going to make something serious, just have fun.
Yeah.
I am really excited about seeing John Wick.
Oh yeah,
next month.
that's a franchise. I don't want to call it a franchise. I don't like that word. I don't like the word franchise. That's a good. If they pull off the third one, that's going to be a good trilogy.
Well,
the first two are really entertaining.
The nerd in me is excited because now the dogs are in it too. Like, now the dogs are actually fighting too, and I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I am looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
But I mean, other franchises, I am kind of excited to see where DC goes now, because they kind of changed their trajectory with Aquaman and Shazam. I don't know. Have you seen those?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I'm gonna check out Aquaman, drinking some beers, because, like, dude,
it's that kind of a movie. Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's been rough watching, like, outside MCU superhero films. Like, I saw Venom, and good
Oof.
God.
Oh God.
I actually had to watch Venom in segments. Like,
okay.
Like, sometimes with movies that bad, I do have to watch in separate sittings because I can't get over it in one.
I'm a big fan of Tom Hardy, so I enjoyed him in it. I thought he was still okay. But yeah, that was a pretty bad movie. I
enjoyed the restaurant scene, and that was about it.
Yeah. Tom Hardy is good in it.
Yeah,
it's not far from his best performance, but he's still good. But yeah, other franchises, just the way DC are making their movies now, hopefully they're going to continue making, because they feel more like standalone movies that are still kind of in the same universe.
Mm-hmm.
There's like Easter eggs. They mention Batman and Superman and Shazam, but they're not important. They're not trying to tie it into the Dawn of Justice or Justice League or whatever it is. They instead focus on making good, especially with Shazam, like good character-driven movies. Like Shazam was. That was like seriously a well-made movie. It's not like a piece of art or anything, but it's a well-made blockbuster that is more or less completely character driven. So that is one franchise. I hope they continue to trust in the writers and directors to make just good movies and not focus so much on the bigger picture, the franchise. Just focus on each movie at a time.
Right.
That is, hopefully they continue with that. But that's other franchises. No, I don't think anyone is gonna like even come close to Avengers, Marvel.
But I mean, even that being said, I would like to see something other than superheroes.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well. Yeah. That is the bad part with DC. It's more superheroes.
And, we both agree with Planet of the Apes. I would like to see that franchise move forward. I'm a little scared with Disney owning it now.
Oh, yeah. Fox, right. Ugh.
Yeah. Because like that's been my big worry about the Disney Fox merger is there's going to be a lot less competition in the market, which means Disney likes playing it safe. They don't like taking risks, other than The Last Jedi, which I will say is a risk. But that was still with a franchise. They don't like taking risks. Like big risks. Like I know a lot of people were frustrated with War for the Planet of the Apes because they felt that the title betrayed their expectations. I loved that.
Yeah. That is actually, if we're going to talk about subverting people's expectations, that title worked in that way.
Yeah.
Because you're like, wait, where's the war? But then you realize, they're actually, it's not a war. They're just fighting for survival, basically. It's a war for the Planet of the Apes in that way. So I liked it. Everything about that trilogy is great.
Yeah. Like, and not to mention, like, I was so mad when Blade Runner won visual effects over Planet of the Apes with the final film, because I was like, okay, just give it as an all-encompassing award. Also, like, the third film damn near reached photorealism. Like, it was insane.
Yeah, and coupling that with the performances, I never once thought that, that's a good CG monkey. No, that was just a great character. Yeah. Because the great effects with the great performances just created this perfect amalgamation of both those. But Blade Runner, it looks really cool.
I am excited to see what Matt Reeves does with Batman.
Yeah. Well, because where DC is going, they might actually let him make a good movie. Well, that's true.
Based on what I've seen, because I haven't seen the actual movies, but based on what I've seen, I'm a little scared that Warner Brothers might push towards a little too lighthearted, and you can't really do that with Batman. No. I don't really want you to do that with Batman. We had the Adam West stuff. I don't want to go back to anything. We had
the Michael Schumacher stuff.
Yeah, and while I like Lego Batman, that's its own thing.
Yeah,
I don't want the films to kind of feel more like Lego Batman.
No, and both Aquaman and Shazam are kind of lighthearted, but it's because they're ridiculous characters. I mean, it's a guy that talks to fish, and it's basically like a kid with a wizard's soul in him. They're ridiculous premises, so they kind of had to make those little tongue-in-cheek, like wink, wink. We get it; it's ridiculous, and that's why those movies work, because they know they're not making like this great art. But with Batman, you have kind of a more serious character, more serious tone. Especially if you look at the old comics, they were very serious from the beginning. Yeah. They became kind of ridiculous in the 50s and 60s. And Matt Reeves can handle something like that. We've seen that, especially with the Apes movies.
Yeah.
So if they're not too concerned about making all movies like tonally coherent, they will let him make a more serious kind of Batman. So I have hopes for that.
I'm curious to see where this Joker thing lies within everything. Like whether that's going to be like part of a franchise or whether that's going to be completely standalone. It's it's really unclear.
Yeah. Well, either way, it looks interesting. And like I said, they are making they are all their movies now seem to be kind of standalone, so it could probably work. Like if it fits into some sort of franchise and they do it well, yeah, sure, go with it. But if it's just a good standalone movie, that's fine because all their other movies work as standalones now. And it's also interesting because it looks like a movie that Todd Phillips actually wants to make. Like because he has a very dark streak. He's only made comedies basically, except for his early documentaries. They're not funny. So him actually making a more like dark and kind of serious movie, which is kind of it's funny in a twisted way. It looks like.
Yeah,
I think it fits him as a director better than like the Hangover movies. So I'm interested in that as well.
it kind of looks. It kind of reminds me of like a breakdown of Falling Down.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the kind of concept I like. I like characters on the verge of like losing their mind and eventually doing it. I like those kind of movies. So I'm
Falling
looking
Down
forward
is
to
one of
that.
my favorite movies of all time.
Oh yeah,
It's the best movie for me to watch whenever I'm having a really bad day and angry at the world.
yeah. Oh yeah, the scene when he goes into whatever McDonald's or something, and like, is this a hamburger? Yeah, it's a great movie. Um, and yeah, talking about all these great movies.
Yeah.
I don't think Star Wars is ever going to amount to that. I don't think they'll ever make a great Star Wars movie again.
Well,
The way they're pushing the franchise, I don't think so.
well, all I want, all I really want is just to have the original trilogy put on Blu-ray the way
Mm.
that they were originally presented.
Yeah, yeah. Imagine.
I mean, you can do a couple polish ups, like you could like the stuff with the original Star Wars movie, like with the lightsabers and stuff like that. I
Yeah,
know there were like minor stuff like that. I'm okay with changing, but like you know, don't change the Han Greedo stuff. Don't add all the fucking stormtroopers riding
yeah.
various aliens and stuff like that. You know,
Or the whole scene with Jabba in the first one. Like,
yeah, you don't need that.
no, it's unnecessary. Yeah. So yeah, and just going back to me saying that the franchise has been creatively ruined since the 80s. Like, imagine a world where we only had those three movies and people kept watching those up until now. They would be like they would be considered like immortal classics. They still are kind of, but the subsequent movies that came after have definitely tarnished the franchise as a whole.
And they keep on trying to Frankenstein
Yeah,
the older films to fit in with the newer films, and they need to stop.
exactly.
You know,
They
accept that they're older films. Kids will accept that they're older films because, like, kids still enjoy older films. I've sat down and watched older films with kids, and they don't have a problem with the fact that, oh, pacing is somewhat different, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Granted, you get some kids that get bored when they watch 20 minutes of anything, but
yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, and that's because well, I also think I talked about this with my sister regarding Shazam, like because Star Wars follows the classic like hero's journey, that kind of like format, that way of telling a story, and we've had that since like the ancient Greeks used that format to tell a story, the hero's journey. It's because that way of telling a story works. And since Star Wars stays kind of rigid to that way of telling a story, it's timeless. So people are always going to be able to enjoy it, even if they might notice the special effects not really working. Like at its core, it's a well told story and a well made movie or franchise.
Yeah, and I do think that it's very important for us to emphasize that it took George Lucas what was it, like 50 rewrites to make the first film. And even then, his film was saved in the editing room, which he does not like to give credit to his ex-wife who saved that movie. But I think, I forget what her name is, but she is the true hero of Star Wars that nobody ever talks about.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, because people don't see that. That's lost in time. But if there are like clips of it on YouTube, you can watch like the rough dailies, and the movie looks terrible at that state. It looks terrible, and it was definitely saved.
You saw the conversation with his old friend, like Biggs, I think it was.
The Biggs, the guy with the mustache. Yeah,
and it's so bad. Like it grinds the plot to a halt, and
he's barely in the movie.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen that aside, but I've seen like when they shot the duel between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan. Like that still looks kind of wonky in the movie, but just looking at how they shot it, it's a miracle it works at all in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that is the hardest sell for younger audiences, you know, especially because I love Alec Guinness. Alec Guinness. Yeah. I love Alec Guinness, but he was not a good swordsman.
No, he was it's
really
60 years old or even more. So I mean, he wasn't the most agile of people.
It's really awkward because you can tell that they're two people trying to hit their sticks together instead of trying to attack each other.
Yeah. But I mean, the movie has persevered in spite of that because it's such a well-made movie.
Yeah.
And that's the big problem with the prequels. Like people get stuck on those details because the movie isn't that good. So you start nitpicking and you start seeing all the flaws.
Yeah,
like a good movie can have a lot of flaws as long as it's like the sum of all its parts is good still. Well, and that's what Star Wars is.
And with The Last Jedi ripping everything apart, I know we've talked about The Last Jedi a lot, but there's a lot to pick up with from that movie.
Yeah.
You know, Star Wars Episode 9 is a sequel to The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Even though J.J. Abrams would rather it be a sequel to just The Force Awakens.
Yeah, that would probably work better. I don't know. Like I said, my hopes for the movie are like they're slim, very slim. I have very little hope for the movie. I don't plan on going to see it. I mean, unless someone like drags me to the theater, sure I'll go see it. But I mean, I have no interest. I don't care what happens to these characters after The Last Jedi. There's nowhere for them to grow. There's nowhere for them to go. So it's like, I don't care. Unfortunately.
Well, and we know Rey is going to win. Like, you know.
Yeah, because we're back to J.J. Abrams. He's going to play it safe.
We know Kylo Ren probably isn't going to turn to the light side, except maybe like right before his death, because like, you know, J.J. Abrams did recreate A New Hope. He's probably going to do the same thing with Return of the Jedi.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, he'll be redeemed, but he'll never be part of the good guys.
Yeah.
No. That's
But if he did actually become part of the good guys, that would be fascinating.
Oh, yeah. But then again, it's just this is the last movie, so he becomes the good guys and then the movie is over. Okay. That would be somewhere to grow the story, but the story's over now.
I will have to say, what did you think of that shot where Kylo Ren like body slams that guy with a lightsaber in his hand? I was just like, okay, first of all, how do you even do that? How do you even like take down somebody with a sword and not cut them?
I guess he like shoves the what it's called the
Hilt?
yeah, the hilt, the like the guard thing that is made out of lightsaber stuff as well. I guess that's what he shoves into his stomach, and then pushes him down with his actual like hand or the handle. I guess I don't. It
Why
looked.
would you even do that? Like,
I don't
it's so
know.
stupid. Like, why wouldn't you just, stab him?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Take the long part of the sword and just shove it in him. That's easier. And that's another thing that I know some people have pointed out in the desert when the TIE fighter or whatever is chasing Rey. That has to be like a good guy or like a training thing, like you said.
yeah,
Because otherwise, why wouldn't they just shoot her? You
yeah.
have laser cannons. Shoot her.
And plus, it would look cooler if it was shooting her and going forward towards her, and then she's like dodging it, and
Yeah. She's like standing her ground, and the ship
yeah,
keeps getting close, and she keeps deflecting, and then jumps.
because
But
that's
turning her back to it, and it's weird.
yeah, Jedi's turning their back. I mean, I watched the original trilogy. Jedi's don't turn their back.
No, they do in the Last Jedi though. They turn their back on the whole world. So man, maybe that's the new thing Jedi does. I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna have to wrap up now.
Okay.
So,
All
but
right.
I
Well, it's
think
great talking with you. And for anybody in the comments, let us know what you thought of the trailer. I'm really curious. I know our opinions are probably in the minority.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, it was great talking with you.
Yeah, it's been way too long. I mean, we haven't talked since what, the Oscars?
Yeah.
Or even before that. I don't know. So yeah, we should do this again, definitely. And yeah, check me out on YouTube. It's Zauis Ex Machina. If you want some movie reviews and some long form discussions like this, we do that weekly actually. We call it Please Don't Live Stream. But yeah, I'm not gonna plug myself too much. That's about it. Check me out on YouTube.
All right. Thanks for watching, guys.